Thanks everyone for joining us tonight. It's quite a crowd. So we're so pleased to welcome you to Supervisor Mueller's new space here, and thank you to Supervisor and his staff for hosting this event. So before we get started, I want to show a quick show of hands. Who lives or works within the project area? All right, hi neighbors. Who travels frequently through the project area? Oh yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us at this important early stage of the project. So tonight we'll be doing a presentation. We'll take you through the background and needs, although you know the needs of this area, right? We'll have to talk about the project goals and overview, some potential solutions, the preliminary traffic and environmental analyses that our team has conducted, and the schedule and next steps for the project. And we would really like for you to reserve your questions until the end of the presentation, when we'll have a Q&A followed by additional open house. So then we'll move into the open house, where we're going to encourage you to continue having these conversations with the project staff and viewing the exhibits that are set up around the room. We also do have a formal question and comment box up here on the counter that we would love for you to complete before you leave today. So at about 7:40, we will start a wrap-up where we're going to bring the project team members back up here, and they're going to report out what some of the overarching questions or comments that they've received from your peers, so you really get a chance to know what everybody is thinking and talking about tonight. So this project team includes many players and partners. So the County of San Mateo is considered the project sponsor. They're the ones seeking to change conditions on Highway 1 in Moss Beach, and they also sought funding from San Mateo County Transportation Authority to support the current project's initiation phase. The Transportation Authority is considered the project implementer. So they will lead the future phases towards implementation with support from the county. Caltrans, who's the owner and operator of Highway 1, is involved in the process along the way and ensures that we're meeting Caltrans requirements as the project progresses. And then AECOM, who's here with us today, is the consultant team developing the project initiation document, which is the formal kickoff to this process. And so they're here to discuss the project initiation document tonight. So representing the County of San Mateo, we have Chanda Singh and Bharat Singh. We have Katie Faulkner. From San Mateo County Transportation Authority, we have Lily Price. And from our consultant team, we have Ramsey Hisson, Maria Seji, Marius Galoshon, Marco Bays, Catherine Clark, Caitlin O'Keefe, and myself, Nicole Hilaire. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Chanda to kick off the presentation.
All right, thanks everybody so much for coming. I just want to do one slide, which is the background slide. And I think everybody here knows that the Mid-Coast has been the subject of many long-range planning efforts since 2009. Starting with the Highway 1 Safety and Mobility Study, all the way through Connect Your Coastside, which was adopted by the San Mateo County Board of Supervisors in 2022. The project we're discussing today, the Moss Beach Statewide Congestion and Safety Improvement Project, draws directly from those planning studies and the issues, needs, and desires that were identified. So now I'm going to pass it to Ramsey, who's part of our consulting team.
Good evening, everybody. And please let me know if you don't hear me. I'll try to raise my voice. I have a little harsh voice tonight for some reason.
What's your last name, Randy?
Hisson.
Nissan.
Hisson. H-I-S-S-E-N. Hisson. I worked on this project starting in 2015 on the project planning preliminary study, and have helped out throughout the development of the project where we are today. So, I want to talk about is what has been developed, and starting off with, this Highway 1 Congestion and Safety Improvement Project is, and this is like to the next slide. This exhibit shows the limits of where we conducted the study. Just north of Marine Boulevard, and to just north of 16th Street. That's the limits of what this study encompasses. You know, as we looked at the project, we found that, you know, everything that you know about the project is very true. Highway 1 is highly congested. On the weekends, there's a significant amount of traffic, which really makes it hard for pedestrians, bicyclists to cross Highway 1, even you as drivers at the intersection. You want to make left turn movements. I've heard one person tell me 7.5 minutes, that's a lot, but you know, there's a lot of times that you don't have that break to make a left turn, even the right turns, especially on the weekends. And this leads to a lot of conditions that are unsafe. People get impatient, they want to get onto their highway, Highway 1, and it leads to unsafe conditions where it could lead to collisions and accidents and what we call our broadside or T-bone accidents, which are very undesirable for the community. Also, it makes it very difficult for people to cross the highway. I was talking to one lady, she's a jogger, and she has difficulties crossing Highway 1 to get to the other side of Highway 1 to continue with her jog, and bicycles, it's very difficult. So we understand and we hear what the issues are. And all of this, what this does, it leads to an unpredictable travel pattern. You don't know how long it's going to take you to get on the Highway 1. When is that break going to happen when I can cross Highway 1? So, you know, it does have that uncertainty, and it's not a good feeling to have as a resident who basically lives on either side of Highway 1. So we fully understand that. So, you know, with this, the project goals, our overreaching project goals are to improve conditions for all users, and with a heavy focus on safety. We're looking at improving pedestrian, bicycle facilities, encouraging other ways of getting around besides driving, improve access to the coastal resources, and improve operations and safety for all users within this corridor. Caltrans is the owner-operator of Highway 1. They have their own prescribed ways of developing a project and getting it out to construction. The first phase is complete, which is the long-range planning. With a lot of input from the community, there were, as Kanda mentioned, there were a lot of documents prepared, and we got those documents. Now we are in what is called the project initiation phase. And the goals of this phase is really to follow Caltrans' process where we develop concepts, we develop preliminary traffic information, we develop preliminary environmental information, and package it for Caltrans' review and approval. The next steps, once Caltrans approves the project initiation document, again, we are in the PID, or the project initiation phase, it goes to the next phase, which is the project environmental studies and project approval phase. This is when the detailed traffic analysis is done, the detailed technical studies for the environmental document are done, and it brings up the level of studies to a higher level where information is shared and an alternative is selected. And beyond that, there would be then the design phase, and once the design phase, and if there's any property acquisitions are needed, then it goes to the construction phase. But again, we are at the beginning phases of what Caltrans' process is to get a project approved. So I just want to talk a little bit again more about the project initiation document, and this is the current phase that we're in. And it's a series of technical studies that looks at existing conditions and develop concepts which we call alternatives. And I'm hoping that you went back to those two tables there and looked at those alternatives. So it's to develop concepts, develop alternatives, and that meet the purpose and need of the project. So again, those are the alternatives that the team put together, and tonight is an opportunity to hear your feedback. But again, these are the two alternatives. And once the project initiation document is complete and satisfied to Caltrans's satisfaction, Caltrans would sign off on it, and it allows the project to go to the next phase, which I talked about, which is the environmental phase. And that's when all of the detailed studies are done, the public reviews happen, and that's when the project is approved for the next phase, which is the design phase. Again, we're in the project initiation phase. And on this screen here is a snapshot of what happens during the project initiation phase. So based on the project goal, we've identified many existing long-term planning, range planning documents, and we've looked at the possibility of improvements in the area. And the goal, again, is to improve safety and congestion by making it safer to walk, bike, drive, and take transit. We looked at providing more defined spaces to walk, and I hope you looked at you had an opportunity to look at the trails or the connections that we're providing and the multi-use trail that's being proposed. We're looking at opportunities to slow down traffic and by either roundabouts, which are inherently a method to bring down speeds, and creating more gaps to allow people to make a left turn, a right turn, or even pedestrians and bicycles to cross the highway. And on the screen here, these are some of the images that are being considered, and I'll dive into a little bit more detail in the next slides. So project alternatives. Caltrans requires the alternatives to be compared against a no-build alternative. What a no-build alternative is basically doing nothing to the highway. It remains as is, no improvements are made, and basically that's it. It's what you have is out there, is what you get. And the reason that Caltrans does is they would like to compare the other alternatives against the no-build to see what are the improvements, what are the benefits, what are the impacts. So again, the first alternative is a no-build alternative. Project Build Alternative 1 provides roundabouts at Cypress, California, with a signal at 16th Street. Again, I'm hoping you had a chance to look at those exhibits back there. Project Build Alternative provides signals at Cypress and California and 16th. We have two options to signalize the intersection with 16th, and I'll go through that in a little bit. And for Build Alternative 1, which is the roundabouts, there are two options. One is to provide a raised median between the roundabouts, which provides additional traffic calming, slows down speeds. But with the raised median, you could no longer make a left turn in and a left turn out, and you would have to go to the roundabouts to make a left turn onto Highway 1. You would still be able to make a right turn, make a left turn on Highway 1, you would have to go to either roundabout. The other option with the roundabouts is not put in a raised median and maintain that left turn lane. That's what you have today practically, and it allows you to access it. So there are two options with the roundabout options. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands that. Alternatives 1 and 2 include bicycle, pedestrian, and transit improvements. So the improvements you see, that we'll talk about, and you see are all included in both of the alternatives. On this exhibit here, I'm showing the walkways, and this is a bird's eye view from Highway 1 from 16th all the way to Marine. And here in orange, you can see that we're providing on both alternatives walkways which connect the intersections and provide a safer way to walk parallel to Highway 1. It also provides a better access to the bus stops. Also, we heard that there's a need for a walkway from 16th to 14th Street, where there's a bus stop on the northbound side of northbound Highway 1. And so this project has that shown here. There's again, a walkway between 16th and 14th Street. We will be providing, the options provide for a bike lane on Highway 1, and this is a bike lane that's going to be designated if you want to ride on the shoulder. It's a bike lane that is going to be designated for users to use the lane, and this is provided on, again, both alternatives. And I think I went to, sorry, and a multimodal trail is provided. And multimodal trail is going to be provided just south of Marine, all the way to just north of California. And what this trail is, it's separated from Highway 1. And it allows pedestrian, bicyclists, kids and families who don't want to use Highway 1 as a bicycle path. It's a safer route, it's a safer path to use. And so this is, again, part of the two alternatives is to provide what we're calling here is a multimodal trail, which is in simple terms, pedestrian, bicycles, families, and it's not for the aggressive rider who wants to go really fast on Highway 1. This is really to connect all of the intersections and provide a safe access through the intersections. On all alternatives, we are looking at providing crosswalks. And let's see if this is the right slide here. Yeah, crosswalks. We are providing crosswalks at all of the intersections, and we know it's very challenging to cross Highway 1. And with the introduction of either the roundabouts or the signalized intersections, in conjunction with providing crosswalks, we feel this is a much safer way to cross from one side of Highway 1 to the other side. There is one crosswalk that we are eliminating, and that's the crosswalk at Virginia. It would be eliminated, but again, we'll be looking at providing 6 crosswalks along Highway 1. So this is again the image again. You've seen what you've seen over there, and it provides roundabouts at Cypress in California and a traffic signal at 16th. And the big benefit of roundabouts is that they eliminate certain types of crashes, which is the broadside or T-bone crashes. You no longer have somebody having, push. It eliminates those type of crashes. I'll leave it at that. And it's what drivers want to go out, and I've heard from the community there have been accidents where there have been broadside accidents in the past. But again, the roundabout slows down traffic, allows people to go around, and it eliminates these types of collisions. And roundabouts is a traffic calming feature. Inherently, it requires people to slow down, and the roadway will be designed so it's designed for that lower speed, so that they're able to maneuver through the roundabout. So its traffic speeds will be reduced with the introduction of roundabouts. And the roundabout traffic will not come to stop. They will continue to flow, and the only time they would come to stop is when there is a pedestrian crossing at the pedestrian crosswalk. Otherwise, the intent of a roundabout is to have continuous flow of traffic. We looked at the feasibility of putting in a roundabout at 16th Street and determined it was not the ideal location for a roundabout. And the topography of 16th Street is a little depressed. There's some mounds, and the footprint would require an extensive amount of grading. There's an adjacent creek, and the design team really looked at it hard and determined that it was not an ideal location for a roundabout. So the proposal is we provide 2 options for a signalized intersection at 16th, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Alternative 2 is to provide signals at Cypress, California, and 16th Street. I think everybody is familiar with a signalized intersection. You come to a complete stop, opposite traffic flows, pedestrians cross, and you have that queue that develops at the stop, and the cycle basically goes through and flushes out. And so it's a signalized, 3 intersections that are signalized. Again, part of the Caltrans process is to look at various types of intersections. Signals, stop control, and roundabouts are the typical type of intersections. So in this alternative, we are looking at signals, and again, the same features in alternative 1 with the multimodal path and the connection of the walkways are the same. Nothing changes. It's just instead of roundabouts, we have signals.
How will the signals be programmed?
I'll get to that afterwards, after I finish the way. Hold your question, please.
Can you at least say what that light blue area is? There's no key on this map.
Are you supposed to light blue? What is the light blue? Landscaping. Landscaping.
Okay.
And they propose us to landscape that area. We have the 2 designers in the back that would be able to act. They have the details of some of the details if you have any specific questions. So with the roundabouts, there are 2 options that I mentioned. One option is to construct a raised median between Cypress and California, meaning that the raised median, you would no longer be able to make left in or left out movements. It does provide for a safer corridor. It is a traffic calming measure. And if you are in any of the side streets and you want to access Highway 1 to make a left turn onto Highway 1, you would have to go to either one of the 2 roundabouts to make that movement. So again, we're putting this in as an option to, again, we looked at what are the best ways that we can enhance safety within this corridor, and a raised median came up as an idea that we think has its merits to reducing speed, making it safer for the community, but at a cost that you cannot make a left turn from the side seats onto Highway 1. Sorry. The other option is to not place the raised median between Cypress and California and provide a left turn lane where you could access the side streets by making a left turn into the street or making a left turn onto Highway 1. So it maintains what you have right now with the exception at Cypress and California. So this second option is again maintaining that ability to make the left turn movements from Highway 1 to the local streets and vice versa. So that's the main difference. One is a raised median and one doesn't have a raised median.
Can you show an example of not being able to make a left-hand turn on this?
Yeah, I'm confused. Can you make a right turn and go around the roundabout?
Let me go there.
So I'm like, if you're on Virginia,
In,
you go back?
Did you go to the bigger one?
Which one is that?
The one you just got?
Forward.
Yes.
Go forward.
I'm just gonna come Okay, so if you're on Virginia, on this side, on the west side of the highway, and you want to go north, right? You want to go north on Highway 1, you can't because there's a median in the way. So you will have to go make a right turn, go south, go through the roundabout, go through the roundabout, and then go, okay? If you wanted to make a, so that's if you wanted to go left, right? Like effectively, if you were trying to go left, you can't do it because there's something in the way. So if you're anywhere on any of these streets in between, you'll have to do that movement. Right? Go south to go north.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right.
Does it make sense, everybody? Oh, thank you.
But also, if you just want to go, say you're on Carlos, and you just want to keep going on Carlos, you're going to have to go on
I know, right? No, you just go, then you just go home. Well, let's go through and then we'll come back. Thank you.
Okay, here I'd like to talk about the intersection at 16th Street. And again, we looked at putting in a roundabout at this location, and we have basically the terrain is higher on this side, there's a creek on this side over here, and we put in the roundabout and determined that it's not the ideal location for a roundabout. It requires retaining walls, there are some utilities that have to be moved out of the way, there's a series of complications that we felt that it's not the appropriate location. So what we're proposing here is a signalized intersection. Now with the signalized intersection, we came up with two options. One is to take the connection from the Mateo Sanitary District and the access to the hostel and the White House and shift it from where it is and line it up with Carlos. And that's one option. The second option, which is shown over there, is to extend Carlos. Right now there's an informal path there, but extend that with a roadway into 16th Street and create the signalized intersection at 16th. But we would propose to maintain the access to Carlos for northbound traffic, especially trucks, to make that maneuver onto Carlos. So you can make a right-in ahead of the signal into Carlos, but if you want to exit and make a left turn, you would need to go to the intersection, which is signalized. The intersection will have a crosswalk, will have an enhanced bus stop, and in this case we are connecting a walkway between 16th and 14th Street to access the bus stop in the northbound direction, just north of 14th Street.
I have a question. Why 16th Street? At this point in time, there is very little traffic that leaves out of there. Are you prepared?
Yeah.
We will take questions at the end. Thank you.
But why is that an alternative?
We're gonna get through the presentation so we can have a good recording for online, and then we will take questions. Thank you.
We appreciate your comments, and we will just give us a few more minutes, and we'll answer your questions, please. So during this initial phase, we conducted a preliminary traffic review, and there's about 17,000 vehicles that drive on Highway 1 on a daily basis. That's an average, and again, the highest being on the weekends. And again, you know, the observations, which is quite evident, there's continuous high speed along the highway, and there aren't enough gaps to provide safe access to make a left turn if you're driving, or pedestrians or bicycles crossing to access the coast side or businesses or whatever it might be. So, you know, it's something that you already know, and, you know, we have confirmed this. Free flow traffic, it takes about a minute and a half on Highway 1 to go through Moss Beach, sorry. And we've seen, and I've heard that maybe this is on the high side, but it could take 7 minutes to cross sometimes on the weekends to access Highway 1 with the amount of congestion up there. So again, it's bad, it's congested, and as everything, it could get worse with additional growth out there, and everything, you know, the forecasts show that our demands for our highway systems always increase, so it is going to get worse. And with that, side street delays could also get worse. So again, the concept of roundabouts, as signals, really are intended to provide more gaps in the flow of traffic and slowing the overall speed through Moss Beach. And this would help the community where you're walking across or biking across with the slower speeds and the gaps, allow that safer passage. Now, as I mentioned before, this is the project initiation phase. During the next phase, which is the project environmental studies and the project approval phase, a more detailed traffic analysis will be done. Here we assess what we know with existing data, our observations, but the more detailed phase would be in the next phase of the project. Many of you have seen the video simulations. What we try to simulate is to provide you with a view of what a roundabout would do and what a signalized intersection would do in terms of the queuing on the side streets. And we've seen, there is a great benefit, again, for the amount of traffic that queues up on the side streets with roundabouts and signals. The simulation over here provides weekend midday traffic where the waits are the worst. And some of the preliminary models show that the wait times on the streets could be reduced by 40% or more compared to doing nothing, the alternative of doing nothing, the no-road alternative. Again, if there is an opportunity after this session here, please, I'd be happy to answer any questions. I'll be over there after this session is done. With this, I'd like to turn it over to Catherine to talk about the environmental review phase.
Thanks, Anthony. I'll keep it super sweet and simple here. I am the environmental lead on the project. So I've recently finished this preliminary environmental review, and I found out what you guys already know, which is that this is a really sensitive biological area. There are 3 creeks that cross within the project area. There's wetlands. Even under the new rules, there's wetlands. There are endangered species habitats. There's endangered species living right along the side of the roadway. For them. There may be potential buried archaeological resources here. We're going to take some time to study that very carefully and coordinate with those folks that we need to coordinate with. We know there's going to be permits and mitigation that are going to be required in order to build any version of this project. We anticipate in the next phase, that environmental phase that you've heard a little bit about, that we would be preparing a mitigated negative declaration for CEQA. So not a full EIR. We think we can do this with a mitigated negative declaration. We'll need mitigation for biological impacts. If we find something unexpected as we do that work, then of course we would change that to an EIR that is required by law. But at this time, it does feel, based on this preliminary environmental review, we think that we can do that with a mitigated negative declaration. Still gives you guys an opportunity to come back again and get to see, okay, this time we're for real about these alternatives. Which ones do you like most and we really want to pick? Tonight, we're really thinking about what parts of different things do we like most and why, and how do we get those incorporated into the next phase when we are getting a little bit more serious about that time to pick. And then we would anticipate federal funding and federal permits needed, so we would do an environmental assessment to satisfy the requirements of NEPA. I wanted to let you guys know that we've just done the initial, the overall environmental review, very high level. We did an initial site assessment as well, which is the equivalent of a phase 1 hazardous waste assessment. But in the next phase, we're going to be doing a community impact assessment because changing the roadway changes how we use our community and how we interact with each other. So we're going to be looking at that. And of course, we're going to be digging in a lot more on the biological considerations, archaeological and built historic resources in the area. We know that this is a scenic area, historically scenic area, lots of wonderful things happening here that we need to make sure that, first of all, it's our job to collect that information and share it with the public, make sure that that the people who are making decisions have that information and that you guys have that say. So that would be in the next phase, and we wanted to let you guys know that we have started that in project initiation, but there's still a lot of work to be done there.
Thanks, Catherine. I want to talk about the project schedule a bit. Again, this project, Highway 1, is owned and operated by Caltrans. And we need to follow their requirements. And I want to remind you that today decisions are not going to be made today is an opportunity for you to provide your comments, like we have a comment on 16th Street. We might have comments on that, but this is an opportunity for the community to provide us your questions, comments, what you think is good, what things you have other ideas, but this is your opportunity. No decisions are going to be made today. So the project right now, again, is on currently where it says current phase, is in the project initiation phase. And we're anticipating that the project initiation phase will be completed towards the end of the year. And if Caltrans is satisfied with the project initiation phase and there's funding for the next phase, the project would go into the project environmental project approval phase. And these are typical timelines that I'm providing, and the next phases are really subject to availability of funding. The environmental phase and environmental study phase could take up to 2 years. The project design, and if there's any property acquisitions or utilities that need to be relocated, that could take a couple of years, and then construction would happen after that. Again, the subsequent phases beyond the project initiation document are subject to availability of funding. San Mateo County has submitted an application for funds from the San Mateo County Transportation Authority to provide funds for the next phase. So what are the next steps? Again, Caltrans, the County Transportation Authority, are working together on this initiation document. Caltrans is reviewing the draft document and will be making revisions based on their feedback. If Caltrans approves the project, again, it would be eligible for funding for the next phase. Again, the county will be seeking more funds for the subsequent phases, and if funding is awarded, an approval will begin, the project approval environmental document will start early next year. Also, I'd just like to mention that the project will be presented to the Mid-Coast Community Council meeting on October 11th, this upcoming October 11th. With this, I'd like to turn it over back to Nicole.
All right. Thank you very much, Chanda, Ramsey, Catherine, for sharing your expertise with us tonight. So we'd like to open it up for questions now.